Shalom, Israel. I'm Captain LeBron, Israelite School of Youth Camp, the Commander General Yohana, inviting all Black Pacific Native Indians out to the 5th annual Fire Weekend.
Shalom, Israel. Come to the Fire Weekend, man, in Chicago. Midwest Fire Weekend, you know how we get down. July 21st to the 24th, we're going to be in Chicago.
From the flame, you got a lot more to lose, man. It's
under the Midwest Mosque himself, captain for 13,000
July 21st, we got 12 children behind me with the scripture breakdown class, followed by Captain Tadaria and Captain Katazal across the line radio.
You know what I'm saying? We got the Bantu Festival coming back. We got the election coming. We're going to kick off the election with Captain Ash, Captain Kadaza, and Kazak Yad. It's going to be called Before Columbus Came.
On the 24th of July, we're going to be doing the Black and Brown Unity Cookout. Shalom, Israel, to all my blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. From July 21st through the 24th, we're going to be holding the Midwest Fire Weekend. On July 21st, we hold a scripture breakdown with none other than 12 Shield General Muhammad from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., followed by Cross the Line Radio. On July 22nd, we're going to be having camp on the Magnificent Mile from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. And guess what? Commanding General Yohana will be speaking at 3 p.m. We're going to be located at 401 North Michigan Avenue, Chicago, Illinois. After that, we're going to have the Before Columbus Came lecture from 6 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. Located on 9909 Roosevelt Road, Suite 100. On July 23rd, you can catch us at the Bantu Festival from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. We're going to be located at 1130 Midway Place Park, Chicago, Illinois. And then last but not least, we're going to be having the Black and Brown Unity Cookout from 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. located at Douglas Park, 1200 West 12th Place. For more information, call 708-299-5821. Again, 708-299-5821. Also, if you would like to help out and support this troop and brotherhood, go to the Midwest Fire Weekend Black and Brown GoFundMe account and make a generous donation.
Hey, Shalom, Israel, Yahweh, Shem Yashab, Rocket Thumbs, all the brothers, and Yahweh Shamar, Alexander Bashur, and shouts out to sisters in the nation of Israel. This is the Israelite School, Universal and Cosmic Knowledge, coming to you at 1 West, 125th Street, at our home in New York, on the Commander General Yohana. I am priest and officer of 5,000 Kwame Labak, currently holding down the Lashawan Qadash class here in the city of Chicago in the Midwest. And we're going to go ahead and dive into the background of the Lashawan Qadash, how it came about, how we received it back in the UPK since 1969, and why is it such an important thing to know your language. You understand? Because, of course, the Hebrew language is the world's oldest language. It dates all the way back towards Adam and prior towards Adam, because, of course, the Lord considers the Hebrew language to be a pure language that comes out of his own mouth. You understand? And so right now we're going to go ahead and dive into the history of where this language actually comes from and how has it been preserved over the generations. All right, so the brother is going to go ahead and now read Genesis 10 and verse 24. Go ahead and read.
Come. The book of Genesis, chapter 10, verse 24.
Actually, you know what? Start at verse 23 instead.
Come.
It's like not 23, 22.
Come. The book of Genesis, chapter 10, verse 22. The children of Shem.
The children of who?
The children of Shem.
Okay, so now everybody knows the story of Noah and how he had his 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. This is the lineage of Shem. You understand? And we also come to the lineage of Shem as well, as far as the Israelites, because our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Abraham is the great-great-grandson of Shem. You understand? On whom the seed was promised through Shem lineage. You understand? And how do we also know that? When you read the Bible, you will see how when Canaan was cursed because he didn't tell his other brethren when he seen his father's nakedness. He was made to be a servant among servants underneath Shem. You understand? There is no equality in the Bible at all whatsoever, and this scripture here is going to prove it. Go ahead and read.
Come. Elam and Ashur and Arphax.
So these are all the descendants of Shem. All right, one of the sons of Noah. Go ahead.
Come, and Lud and Aram. Verse 23. The children of Aram. Uz and Hul and Gether and Mesh. Verse 24. And Arphax begot Salah, and Salah begot Eber.
Begot who?
Eber.
Right. Eber in Hebrew is pronounced as Ibar. You understand? Eber is a term that they used to say as far as for language in which you used to speak. Just like how we speak Hebrew today. Eber in Hebrew means Ibar, and the term Hebrew itself in Hebrew means Ibariyah. You understand? Meaning that this is my language. You understand? Because Eber in Hebrew means from the past, from beyond, meaning that this is the man who kept and preserved the Hebrew language from his time and passed on down onto his sons. We're about to read in the scripture right now. So go ahead.
Come, verse 25. And unto Eber was born 2 sons. The name of the one was Peleg, for in his days was the earth divided.
Now, what does that mean? For in his days was the earth divided. What is that talking about? Read it over again.
Come. Verse 25. And unto Eber was born 2 sons. The names of one was Peleg, for in his days was the earth divided.
Okay, so what is that talking about? For in his days was the earth divided. What point in period of time in history that the Lord divided so and so? Divided who from among what? Or from who? And this is in the book of Genesis. During what time period did the Lord scatter everybody, divide everyone? The Tower of Babel, where everybody was speaking all one language. You understand? Eber's sons was alive and well during that point in period of time when they was under King Nimrod, when all the lineages of Ham, Shem, and Japheth was got together in Samaria. You understand? And the scripture says what? Read that over again.
Come. And unto Eber were born 2 sons. The name of the one was Peleg, for in his days was the earth divided.
Right. For in his days was the earth divided. His sons was there during that point period of time. You understand? And we're gonna go ahead and dive into that right now. So you can go ahead and drop that. Go over to Genesis chapter 11. Now we're about to dive into the Tower of Babel. Now remember what I just said. How Eber was the man who kept his language and passed it on down towards his sons, the Hebrew language. Now, if his 2 sons had this language, then we know that they had this language even at the Tower of Babel as well. All right. So when you got it, go ahead and call it on out.
Come. You want the first verse? You want to drop down the
first verse?
Come. The book of Genesis, chapter 11, verse 1. And the whole earth was of one language.
Was of what?
Was of one language.
And what language was that?
Would that be the Lashawan Qadash?
And how do you know? How would we know, according to the Bible, that the Lashawan Qadash was the language that they was all speaking at that point period of time?
So that was the language that Moses, not Moses, that Adam spoke.
That's a correct answer because Shem, Ham, and Japheth also spoke Hebrew because their father Noah spoke Hebrew. You understand? You also had even Noah's predecessors that also spoke Hebrew leading up towards Adam. You understand? Because, like I said at the very beginning of the class, Hebrew is the world's oldest language. You understand? So go ahead.
Come. And of one speech, verse 2, and it came to pass as they journeyed from the east, that they found a plain in the land of Shinar. In the land of Shinar.
Shinar is a land of Samaria, where all of the lineages of Shem, Ham, and Japheth was gathered together. All right, so go ahead.
Come. And they dwelt there. Verse 3. And they said one to another, go to, let us make brick and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and slime had they for mortar.
Right. This right here is masonry. You understand? This is they had technology and understanding how to build infrastructures like this back then, even way back prior towards Egypt. You understand? So you can maybe see exactly where they got it from. All right, so go ahead.
Come. Verse 4, and they said, go to, let us build us a city and a tower, whose top may reach unto heaven. And let us make us a name.
Let us make us a what?
A name.
Now, what is the whole entire point of these heathens and also our people as well, being in the land of Samaria, building up a tower that reach up to heaven? What is the whole point of how heathens and how even our president today build these towers up so high that it reaches down there half the point where the clouds are at? What is the whole point of it? And I wanted you to stop at the point in the scripture and where the answer is at.
So that they can, if I could, so that they can actually, like our president said, so they can make themselves like unto the Most High.
Exactly. So that they can be able to make themselves more esteemed in the Most High God and above His prophets. You understand? Because even when you look at the Dubai building over in the so-called Middle East, that's the highest building on the earth right now. It outbeats the Empire State Building, it outbeats the Willis Tower, it outbeats the World Trade Center. You understand? And all these other high infrastructures, which you see in every major city. That is our oppressor letting every other nation know that we are above you. You understand? And that we are above God, to where they paint the images of the true prophets of God in Christ and Yahusha all white. You understand? That's why also actually obtaining dominance over everything that is not like them. All right, so you go ahead and read.
Come. Lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. Verse 5. And the Most High came down to see the city and the tower, which the children of men built.
And that the Lord literally came off His throne, they came to see the city and the tower. How did the Lord do this?
It's like, if I could, be the angels.
Right. The Lord sent angels to be able to spy out what was going on. All right. So go ahead.
Come. Verse 6. And the Most High said, behold, the people is one.
The people are what?
The people is one.
Right. Just like how America is. The people. You got every race on the earth that always loves to come to America that better go ahead and fulfill their own desires and lusts. You understand? You can't be a homosexual over in Saudi Arabia. They're going to behead you. You understand? So anybody who wants to take on that lifestyle, you can feel free to come to America and go ahead and take up that rainbow flag and be a flaming homosexual. You understand? You want to be a child molester? You can't be a child molester in some countries. You understand? They'll push you to death. But in America, it's basically just the thing. You understand? That's going on. Laws being passed from pedophilia and doing things like that and whatnot. You understand? You have a lot of countries to where they will push you to death, and by knowing that these things are unlawful to do and not right, But in America, everything that goes against the law, statutes, commandments of God, they would make it pleasing, make it appalling. You understand? As far as having the say to be able to go ahead and partake in these different things. You understand? What is not like the Most High God. All right. So you go ahead and keep reading.
Come. And they have all one language. And this they begin to do. And now nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do.
Right. And this one language is Abari, you understand, which is the Hebrew. You understand, in which they were speaking as Torah Bible all the way back during the times of King Nimrod. You understand? All right, so we can go ahead and drop this up, and I want you to go ahead and pick up on Genesis 14 and 13. Meanwhile, if anybody online has any questions as it pertains towards the Lashawan Qadash class, you can feel free to ask questions. You understand? All right, you got it?
Come.
Go ahead.
The book of Genesis, chapter 14, verse 13. And there came one that had escaped and told Abram the Hebrew.
Abram the what?
The Hebrew.
Right. I'm pretty sure everybody has heard the term of the word Hebrew Israelites. You understand? You don't want to call yourself a Hebrew Israelite because, of course, Hebrew is a language.
Right.
You understand? That would be like me calling somebody an English American. Nobody says that. You speak English, but your nationality is American. That's if you're Caucasian. You understand? Nobody says that you are a Hebrew Israelite. I speak Hebrew, but I'm an Israelite. That's my identity.
Right.
You understand? So, but to the point, as far as for the scripture itself, Abram, the Hebrew, which the scripture just said, this was a man who also kept his language from his forefathers leading up towards Eber, which means Abaria in Hebrew as well. All right, so you can go ahead and drop that. We're going to go ahead and move our way on over towards Acts 26. The history of the Lashawan Qadash can be found all throughout the Bible. You understand? That's what's so great about the Israelite School of Universal Cosmic Knowledge is that we always have answers pertaining towards any and all questions that anybody can better bring on. You understand? Because of course this information has been hidden from us since the time of the Greeks. You understand? All right, so you got it?
Come.
All right, you go ahead.
The book of Acts, chapter 26, verse 1.
Actually, let me get that with you real quick. I want you to start at verse 13. I mean 12.
The book of Acts, chapter 26, verse 12. Whereupon, as I went to Damascus with authority and commission from the chief priests. Verse 13. At midday, O king, I saw in the way of the lights, in the way a light from heaven above the brightness of the sun.
Okay, now I'm not sure if anybody's seen an arc flash when somebody hits a circuit breaker and you're seeing that big huge flash of light, or you wake up early in the morning, you turn on the lights and then it just completely blinds you. You understand? But this light here in this scripture is brighter than all of that. Now that we know, because it says that it's brighter than the sun. So you can only imagine how they're not even able to see anything, because for light to be so bright, you can't see nothing but whiteness. That's how bright this light is. You understand? And it's so bright that they all fell down to the ground. And this man here, whose name was Saul before his name being known as Paul, they all went into the city of Damascus as far as for work for the priests. All right, so go ahead.
Come. Shining round about me, and then and them which journeyed with me. Verse 14. And when we were all fallen to the earth, I heard a voice saying unto me, and saying in the Hebrew tongue,
in the English,
in the Hebrew tongue,
in the Chinese,
in the Hebrew tongue,
in the Aramaic,
in the Hebrew tongue,
in the Hebrew tongue, in the Lashawan Qadash. You understand? Christ is not speaking. Let me take that back. Aramaic is Hebrew. What I was trying to say is Arabic. You understand? Which is the language of the Arabs. You understand? Christ spoke almost every language that you can better think of during this point period of time. He spoke Akkadian, he spoke Latin, Greek. You understand? Because of course we was living underneath the Greeks, just like how we live underneath the Greeks today, and how we speak in English. You understand? The scripture says that there's nothing new underneath the sun. Underneath every captivity that we've been in, we took on the language and the culture of those nations. You understand? So here in this scripture right here, Christ is coming to this man, speaking to him in Hebrew. Go ahead.
Come. Saul, why persecutest thou me? It is hard for thee to kick against the pricks.
Okay, so this scripture alone proves that Christ chose the Hebrew language and all languages to speak a man in, to speak to a man in. You understand? Because this is a language that his ancestors, our ancestors, spoke in as well. You understand? All we dating back towards Adam, in which Christ was Adam during that point period of time. You understand? So you can go ahead and drop this up. Let's go over to Luke 23 and 38.
Come. So you said 23, 38.
23 and 38.
Come. The book of Luke, chapter 23, verse 38. And a superscription also was written over him in letters of Greek and Latin and Hebrew. This is the King of the Jews.
So when they crucified our King Yahushua Mashiach, they written the description right above him when they crucified him to let the people know who the man was, the King of the Jews. And they wrote it both in Latin, Greek, and in Hebrew. You understand? Which lets you know that our people and also the people of that land as well spoke these different languages. You understand? Which shows you that we wasn't just only speaking Hebrew, but we also spoke the language of our oppressors as well. You understand? Just like how we speak Hebrew in the last week BK, and we also speak English, in which you hear me speak English right now. For the brothers and sisters out there that solely speak English. You know, and also Spanish as far as the brothers in the school as well that speak Spanish. You understand? I want to give up a big up towards Captain Al-Shapari in 13,000. You understand? Captain Kazazar, I know I'm out of order. Captain Kazazar, you got Officer Kazak Yad, you understand? Reaching our northern brothers or the northern tribes over in Central South America, speaking to them in Spanish. You understand? This right here, what we do is what is known according to what is known as according to the Bible, as speaking in tongues. You speaking in a language that another brother can understand, so you can grasp into the truth. You understand? And this scripture right here shows you how when they crucified Christ, they wrote in the scripture right above them on a tree that had King of the Jews in multiple different languages. You understand? So you go ahead and drop this out. Let's go over to Zephaniah 3:9. Zephaniah 3 verse 9. That's what we're going to go to now.
The book of Zephaniah, chapter 3, verse 9. For then will I turn to the people a pure language, and they may all call upon the name of the Lord.
Right. The scripture says a pure language. You understand? What is that pure language according to the Bible?
So that would be the Lashawan Qadash.
Right. That's the Lashawan Qadash. You understand? Because the Lashawan Qadash is a pure language that comes out of a people who's separate from every other nation. You understand? You can't consider yourself to be separate, and yet you're not speaking something that's pure that's coming out of your mouth. You understand? That would be called hypocrisy. That would be something like a man named known as Montezinos who tried to do that. You understand? We're gonna go ahead and bring that up right now. I'm gonna go ahead and share the screen so you can be able to see exactly what I'm about to put. So bear with me. Okay, so this here is Antonio D. Montezinos. Montezinos was a man who, of course, took a trip to South America. I'm going to read it right here. It says, on the trip to South America during 1641 to 1642, Montezinos discovered a group of natives in Ecuador. If you don't know what Ecuador is at, Ecuador is in South America, right there next to Colombia. All right, who could recite the Shema, and the Shema is a Yiddish form of Deuteronomy 6:4, which is the credo that we say in the UBK. All right, and which he also messed up. All right. And were acquainted with other Jewish rituals. He brought this news to Amsterdam in 1644 and the congregational authorities. All right. The assumption was that these natives were a remnant of the 10 tribes, of the 10 lost tribes, of the tribes of Reuben and Levi, according to Montezinos. He then left for Brazil, where he died, reasserting on his deathbed the truth of his report. You understand? So this man right here said the Israelite credo towards Israelites, towards the northern tribes, and he messed it up, trying to be a spy. You understand? Trying to be someone who would like to try and infiltrate. You understand? Because of course the Israelite credo is what we say in Deuteronomy 6:4, where it says, Shema Yeshua Elohim Yahweh Echad, which means, hear, O Lord, the Lord our God is one power. You understand? And of course, Montezinos messed that up, this along with everything that is outside this truth that tries to confound it. You understand? So when it comes down towards the Hebrew is a language that can only going to be spoken properly from its original inhabitants, which are the so-called Israelites. You understand? Those people over in Israel today, in the so-called Middle East, those Palestinians and those Israelis, you understand? They don't speak real Hebrew. What they speak is Yiddish. Right. You understand? And also as well, Yiddish has three main different types of dialects, and that's the Yemenite, the Ashkenaz, and the Shafari. And the closest one to the Hebrew is the Yemenite, which doesn't have the V vowel in it. You understand? And the Shafari Jews, the Shafari Jewish people originally originated from Spain when they migrated from the Khazarian Empire. All right. So anytime when you look up the term Israelite, you always need to know that Israelite is a term that is solely meant for the 12 lost tribes of the nation of Israel. All right. Would you hold the scripture for me? Okay. Go ahead and grab Revelation 2 and 9. Just so that real quick. And the thing is about a lot of these fake Israelite organizations that try their best to live up to the culture of being Israelite and trying to look masculine and try to wear the proper attire and garments and try to break down scriptures. You understand? Anytime when you are a disobedient son, but when you leave your father's household and when you try and build up one of your own, that's not based on the proper foundations, the house is going to fall. Right. You understand? Which is why Commander Johanna always say every time we have a Passover that all camps are supposed to be guys together. You understand? Come on back home. You understand? Because right now, during the times which we're living in, we can't be caught up in our pride and our ego as far as we're trying to have power. Just because we have a little bit of information about the truth, and then we want to go ahead and establish our own school. You understand? There is only one school, and that's the Israelite School or Universal Pathway Knowledge that started in 1969. That's right. You understand? And when it comes down towards the Hebrew itself, as far as the Yiddish prospect, the Yiddish prospect came from the so-called Masoretes. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and show you this article right here. This says from Brikana. It says the Masoret text, and also as well, the original Masoretes are not Israelites. You understand? They are Jewish scribes. You understand? White Jewish scribes. You understand that actually had the records of who we were, and then they hid it, and then they proclaimed themselves to be the real Jews. You understand? And we actually going to bring that out in the scriptures right now. Drop that. Go to 2 Kings chapter 17. You understand? This right now, what we're about to go to now is where in the scripture how when the northern tribes is kicked out, and then we also have this so-called Jewish men who occupied our land where the northern tribes is kicked out, and then they claim themselves to be the real Jews. All right, so let me go ahead and put that on up right now. Go on 2 Kings 17. Get that with you real fast. On 2 Kings 17 and verse 5. Sorry, verse 5.
Come. The book of 2 Kings chapter 17, verse 5. Then the king of Assyria came up throughout all the land, and went up to Samaria and besieged it 3 years.
So what is the land of Samaria? Now this is the king of Assyria. This is our Assyrian captivity. You understand? And if this is our captivity, then what land is land of Assyria if Assyria is being made captive?
So that would be Israel.
That would be Israel. But what part of Israel? What part of Israel is it? Which is Samaria. These little things are very important to know.
So would that be?
That would be the northern tribes. You understand? Samaria is where the northern tribes reside in. Just like how you have Jerusalem and Judah, which resides for the southern tribes. All right, so go ahead.
Come. Verse 6. In the 9th year of Hoshea, the king of Assyria took Samaria and carried Israel away into Samaria, and placed them in Halah and Habor by the river of Gazan, and in the city of the Medes. Verse 7.
Right. And the thing about this as well, us going to captivity, like the northern tribes, they not even knowing that this will be the last time actually seeing the land. You understand? And this was written during the Assyrian Empire. When you read the Apocrypha, when you read this book right here, it shows you how in Second Maccabees, how they was carried away across the waters by the Assyrian armies. You understand? During this scripture right here, they was making their way to the Americas. You understand? Right here in this scripture right here. All right, so go ahead. Go ahead.
So during this time was did both the northern and southern kingdom go in, and then the southern kingdom escape, or get the Lord let the southern kingdom go, or was it just the northern kingdom that went into Assyria?
No, it was just the northern kingdom that went into slavery by the Assyrian armies. They took them out of their northern provinces, and then they put them into the Americas as far as punishment. That's what ended up happening. That's how when you see when in the New Testament when Yahweh showed Saul, which we just read, he was a man that was chosen to bring the Gentiles, which were scattered in these different nations, back towards our identity, back towards our culture. That's why Paul went into Asia Minor, went over to Galatia. And Paul would have knew exactly where the Israelites was at in Americas. He would have went over there as well. You understand? He probably would have sailed boats and took Peter and the whole entire schooling over there to grab those brothers on the back. But we were scattered. We were scattered into every nation, including the Americas, for for such a long period of time that it would have been very hard over the period of years to actually pinpoint where everyone was at. So that's why it took so long for our president to find us in the Americas, because you had Christopher Columbus to define the northern tribes of the Americas, because he used a apocrypha to define the northern tribes, and he also used Marco Polo journals to even add on towards what the apocrypha was saying as well. All right, so did I answer your question?
Come.
All right, you go ahead, keep reading.
Come. Verse 7. For so it was that the children of Israel had sinned against the Lord, their power.
Right, and this is the reason why we went to captivity. You know what I'm saying? The northern tribes went into captivity first. It was kicked out of the northern provinces of Israel, and then they was making their way over to the Americas. The only tribes that was left in Israel was just the tribe of Judah, Benjamin, Levi, half the tribe of Levi. All right, so go ahead.
Come. Which had brought them up out of the land of Egypt, from under the hand of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, and had feared other gods. Verse 8. And walked in the statutes of the heathens.
And this is the reason why we went to captivity, because we serving other gods. So it's like how we serving gods here in America. We serving the god of pedophilia, that pink and blue flag. Serving the god of homosexuality, the LGBT movement. You want to go ahead and take up the image of Isupk and celebrate the white image of Jesus Christ. That's your God. We're not supposed to be celebrating that. We're not supposed to be celebrating our birthdays. We're not supposed to be celebrating Father's Day. You understand? These are different gods, different powers that we give homage to, as opposed towards our own God. All right, so go ahead.
Come. Whom the Most High cast out from before the children of Israel, and of the kings of Israel, which they had made. Verse 9. And the children of Israel did secretly those things that were not right against the Most High, their power.
Right, and the thing about it, we still do that today as a nation of people. We still do things secretly away from the Christian pastor. You got tons of niggas that go to church every Sunday, and the day before on Sunday night they get out.
Right.
You understand? Which shows you that anybody who wears a cross around their neck is not somebody who's following the Lord. You understand? You got drug dealers who wear crosses. You got pornography actors and whores that wear a cross around their necks. You understand? You got different men in the Christian church and the Muslim moms that wear crosses and a crescent moon around their neck, and proclaim themselves to be someone who loves the Lord and who's on the faith of the Most High, and they're completely off. You know what I'm saying? How do you know? You can better tell by the fruit of their labor and what comes out their mouth and what they do.
Right.
You understand? When you see a man eat shrimp, pork, crab, and lobster, and they're Muslim, they're not following. That shows you that they're not actually even loyal towards their own power and their own organization. That's right. Let alone towards the true God of Israel. You understand? You got what else? You got sisters that love to go to red lobster. You understand? Eat that crab. You understand? That love to go ahead and dye their hair in multiple different colors and love to have abortions. All those things are unlawful according to the scriptures. All right, so go ahead. And these are all things that we did secretly against our God. Go ahead.
And they built them high places in all their cities, from the towers of the watchmen to the fenced cities. Verse 10. And they set them up images of groves, and every high hill, and under every green tree.
Okay, you can just go ahead and drop that. So this right here is basically just when the northern tribes was kicked out, and how when our oppressors moved on in, and then they proclaimed themselves to be the real Jews, and by taking up our culture, and by basically just perpetrating the real Jews, which is the so-called black man. All right. So you can go ahead and drop that. And see, you can still hold Revelation 2 and 9. All right. So we're about to go ahead and go back towards this article with the Muslim rights. This source here. I'm going to go ahead and read it. It says the Mosaic text, traditionally Hebrew text of the Jewish Bible, assembled and codified and supplied with diacritical marks to enable correct pronunciation. All right. Let me see. I'm going to scroll on down. Okay. I'm going to go on back right now. I'm actually going to see if I can better bring the correct article up. I believe that wasn't the right one. Meanwhile, while I'm pulling this up, if anybody online has any questions, comments, or concerns as it pertains towards the Hebrew, anything at all you like to have it be broken on down, you understand? Now's the time to go ahead and bring that information on out towards my attention, so I can go ahead and give you some application. All right. Okay, here we go. Okay, so now you're gonna be able to see it right here. Of course, you see the Maganda right there. Let me bring it on up. It says errors in the Mozarte's original Hebrew manuscripts of the Bible. The Hebrew Bible or the Old Testament that we have today differs from the Hebrew manuscripts of the Bible, penned in the first millennium BCE. And what that is basically saying is that the Mozartes are the ones that are responsible for putting vowel points into the language. You understand, those little dots and dashes. All right. And Mozartes are nothing but just white Jewish scribes and scholars who, over a period of time, since the Northern Tribes was kicked out of the land, that incorporated dots and the dashes, incorporated the wa in shalom to where people say shalom, you understand, and how other organizations, in which I'm not going to name, where they say shalom with the O. There's no O in Hebrew. There's no E in Hebrew. You understand? It's where you say Yahweh. You understand? That's not the Lord's name. You understand? So there is no E in Hebrew. There is no O in Hebrew, and there is also no E, no O, and there's also another one that's escaping me right now. But those vowels there are not a part of the original Hebrew dialect, in which this article is saying right here. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep reading. The Hebrew Bible or the Old Testament that we have today, let me bring this on back. The Hebrew Bible or the Old Testament that we have today differs from the old Hebrew manuscripts of the Bible, penned in the first millennium BCE. When transmitting any sort of a document from generation to generation, small alterations, some intentional, others not, are made. So our professor made this intentionally. You understand? Because he wants to go ahead and keep this information hidden from the world as far as from whom the real Jews are and by perpetrating our culture. All right. Even the most careful scribes make errors which are perpetrated and often compounded by future scribes. You understand? Let me see if I'm going to scroll them down really fast. All right. They tried to combat it by adding supplements to the text in the margins of the Mozarte's manuscripts. There are innumerable notes to safeguard the text. The precision with which the Mozartes were able to preserve the Hebrew text beginning in the 7th century CE is astounding. Nonetheless, the Mozartes were not working with the original Hebrew manuscripts of the Bible, period. You understand? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and pull up a picture right now that shows you the it's like the Masoretic text, and from the Dead Sea Scrolls, which is the text that we wrote. You understand, when we was in our own land. All right. Because anything that pertains towards the Masoretic text, when you see those little dots and dashes, that should let you know that's a text that was written by our oppressor, the so-called Ashkenazi Jews. All right. Actually, you know what? I actually have it right here.
If I could, what article is this again?
This is on Britannia.com. All right, so you see this right here? You see how I said standard English version in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Then right below that, where it says Dead Sea Scrolls, that's the accurate Hebrew text in which was written in the 1st century BC. You understand? By us, by Israelites. Now underneath that, you have the Masoretic text. Yeah, you understand? To where you see the little dots and dashes. You understand? That came after when the northern tribes kicked out of the nation of Israel, and it became more prominent when the southern tribes also kicked out, to where it became official when our oppressor actually had our land. You understand? So that's what the Masoretic text looks like. That differs greatly from the Dead Sea Scrolls. All right. Now I know a lot of people may say, "Oh, well, it's still the Bible nonetheless, so who cares?" Well, it matters greatly, because when you want to go ahead and learn Hebrew, and if you get caught up in learning it from your oppressor, it's going to vary greatly from how there are vowels incorporated into the language, from which we teach in the UK that doesn't have none of those vowels in the language. Right. You understand? All right. So let me check online for any questions right now. All right, no sweat. You got Revelation 2:9?
Come.
All right, you go ahead and read it.
Come. The book of Revelation, chapter 2, verse 9. I know thy works and thy tribulation and poverty.
The Lord knows our works, our tribulation, our poverty. He knows that we got to wake up every morning to go to that damn job that we don't want to go to.
Right.
And it's still not enough money, especially with the inflation levels in America. You understand? With the high taxes and with gas prices the way that they are now, and how food is scarce. You understand how famine and death is everywhere around the corner. Not to mention those 3,000 cows, I believe it was over in Texas that just died. You understand? The inflation levels is on the rise. So anytime when inflation is around, you can expect famine to come right behind it, because that's going to be a food shortage for the people. You understand? He knows our poverty. He knows how we still in slavery underneath our oppressor today, to where we come to our oppressor with crumbs. You understand? We receiving crumbs from our oppressor. You understand? We on food stamps, Section 8, welfare. You understand? We working minimum wage jobs. You understand? We basically just at the very bottom of society, that no one is pleading for us. You understand? Except for the men and women in the UBK. You understand? So you go ahead.
Come. But thou art rich.
You understand? So how is it that we poor but we're rich? I'm pretty sure that somebody may be online watching this class right now. Okay, so how is it that we in poverty and we have tribulations, but we also rich? But the Bible is contradicting itself, brother. It's contradicting itself. You can't be poor and rich at the same time. So what's it talking about?
If I could, we'll be talking about our heritage of who we actually are, and how the Lord really wanted, if we obeyed Him, how the Lord wanted us to be on top of the world, because He chose us above every nation.
You know, wrong. It is our heritage and it is our culture. But one thing about the Bible that anybody can better pick up and read it, and can better follow. Like any nation, even outside the nation Israel, can pick up the Bible and read it and study it. Can watch our class online and make sure that they give the donations and come to camp and kiss the boots of the Prophets of the Lord. They can do all that. But one thing about the Bible that they don't have that doesn't make them rich is the promises.
Right.
You understand? The promises in the Bible is only meant for the nation of Israel. You understand? Because of course, when you read in Genesis 25 how when Isaac gave that blessing to Jacob, those were the promises that came after it as well. You understand? And now imagine if Esau would have had the promises, if he would have had the blessing. You understand? There would be no Yahushua Mashiach that would have saved us. We will still be underneath this oppressor forever. Now imagine that. You understand? That's how you know that we rich in that point, in that area, because when Christ come back, we're going to be having black-owned businesses and brown businesses that won't fail. You understand? We're going to have our own land. We're going to have our own crops. We're going to have our own space stations on different planets, including on moons and Mars. We're going to have our own businesses. We're going to have. There's going to be no abortion. You understand? We can actually have anything that we want, that we desire. You understand? So that's where the rich comes from, as far as those promises that's in the Bible. All right, so go ahead.
And I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not.
Right, those are the most rights. Those are oppressors, according to the Bible. The so-called Jewish man. You understand? That ish at the end of Jew means something to be alike. You understand? Like I'm blackish, like I'm blackish, but I'm actually brown. My headpiece is black, but I'm not black. I'm brown. You understand? But the so-called Jewish man over in Israel, he's Jewish, but he's not a Jew. We got to wear Jews. All right. So go ahead and keep reading on that. Was that it? Okay. Go to Revelation 3 now.
The book of Revelations, chapter 3, verse 9.
Mm-hmm.
But I will make them of the synagogue of Satan.
And that's who these people are. You understand? When the northern tribes was kicked out of Israel many years ago, according to 2 Kings 17, you understand? There was a one who was known as the synagogue of Satan, who occupied our land. You understand? So go ahead.
Which say they are Jews and are not.
Right, because they are kosher bandits. You understand? It's what they did over the generations is known as identity theft. You understand? And of course, if any other nation happens to do what they did, they would be put to death for it. They would be put in jail. You understand? There would be sentences for it. But where's the sentences for our person? Where's the sentences for how he murdered 77 North American Indians? And then since he didn't have no slaves to build up his cities, he had to bring the southern tribes from the west coast of Africa across the Atlantic to build up his empire and then push the Mexicans back at their border. You understand? So what's the synthesis for our person in America and for the so-called white man? You understand? That's going to come very soon when a black man known as Yahushua Mashiach is going to come back with millions of angels to fill the sky, and that's going to bring judgment for what our oppressors in these other nations have done. All right, so you can go ahead and drop that. The thing about Hebrew as well is that Hebrew, not only is it just a language, but just like with any language, it comes from pictographs. That's how you have a dialect that comes out of your mouth. You understand? I'm pretty sure everybody has seen a movie with what do they call it? I'm pretty sure everybody has seen Ice Age or some movie like that dealing with the Neanderthals and how they had cavemen in the caves writing signs on the walls and stuff like that. Those are pictographs for them to speak a language. You understand? That's how Hebrew came about. You understand? And you have three different types of Hebrew Hebrew letters. You have the Assyrian, which is the so-called Modern Hebrew. You have the Ancient Hebrew, which is the so-called Paleo Hebrew or the Phoenician Hebrew, and then you have the Pro-Semitic Hebrew as well, which dates back prior towards the Ancient Hebrew. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and put this image on up here right now.
So,
Go ahead.
would that be what the fake Israelites call pictorial Hebrew?
Yeah, that would be what that is. Mm-hmm. And that is also the same one that the Canaanites was also using before we came and took over our land as well. All right. Let's see if I'm trying to find a picture of what it looks like really fast. I'm trying to find an accurate picture right now, so bear with me. Okay, right now what I'm gonna do is just I'm gonna share this screen right now so you can be able to see it online. Okay, I'm gonna try and blow this one up. Okay, so right here, where you see pictograph on the screen, this is the pro-Semitic version of Hebrew itself. You understand? That came prior towards the ancient Hebrew. And then on the right hand side of this, where it says classical Hebrew, this is the modern Hebrew. Now, right in between the classical Hebrew with so-called modern Hebrew and the pro-Semitic Hebrew right here, the letters that come right in between these two, because the one on the left hand side is the first, the one on the right hand side is the last fashion of Hebrew letters. You understand that fashion, but right in between these two is what is known as ancient Hebrew, and which I'm about to show you right now. All right. So let me see if I'm gonna try to picture that right now. Okay, so this right here is ancient Hebrew. Second, not that one. My mistake. Here we go. I have it. This right here is ancient Hebrew. How you see these letters right here on the right hand side is basically just like that. We have Pa, Ba, Ga, Da, Ha, Wa. You understand? That's what those letters look like as far as for the Paleo Hebrew, or the people call it Phoenician or ancient Hebrew. That's what we call it. All right. So you had three different types of Hebrews. You had three different types of Hebrew letters in its own fashion. You had a pro-Semitic Hebrew, was the first one. Second one, you had the ancient Hebrew. The last but not least, you had the modern Hebrew, which the world known Hebrew to be as. All right. And the thing about Hebrew itself is that over a period of time, our oppressor has bastardized the language to where for anybody that wants to learn Hebrew, and I even seen celebrities like top dog celebrities in Hollywood, which that are our own people that study Hebrew and they speak like the Yiddish man. You understand? That's the way they should be learning it from the inside school BK, as far as actually speaking your own language. You understand? And then too as well, Hebrew has its own history according to the Bible, and as far as in other archaeological findings that in books that we have. And you understand, just like how I spoke about Montezinos earlier, how he found Israelites in South America. He also have Bernard Torres, who's also a brother who rode with Columbus, and who was also a translator to find where the trash was at. You understand? In the Americas. You understand? The thing about Hebrew as well, Hebrew is not a language that is very difficult to know, because of course there are no vowels in it. Anytime when there's a language that has vowels in it, you can expect yourself to have some trouble with pronouncing that language and speaking that language. And how do we know? A lot of brothers and sisters love to try and learn Spanish, but it's hard because you have a certain dialect and a certain fashion you have to speak in that tongue, just like Portuguese. You know what I'm saying? Especially German. Yiddish is a mix of both Hebrew and German language together. A lot of people don't know that. You understand? Because of course, just like what I just said earlier on in class, that the three different main dialects of Yiddish is Yemenite, Ashkenazi, and Shafari. You understand? And the majority of them came from Spain or from Portuguese and from some of the European nations. You understand? To where they carry that dialect and then they mix it with our language and then they call it Yiddish. All right. All right, so I want you to go ahead and grab for me the book of Daniel, chapter 7, verse 14. We're going to go ahead and go on over there. Daniel 7:14.
Book of Daniel, chapter 7, verse 14. And there was given him dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all people, nations, and languages should serve him.
Right, and who was this? Who was this speaking about here in Daniel 7:14? And there was given him dominion and glory. Who was it speaking about?
Somebody says something about king.
Right, something about Yahweh Shamashiach. Read that again from the top.
And there was given him dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all people.
That all what?
That all people.
That all people. Everyone on the earth. Go ahead.
Nations and languages.
And what?
And languages.
This right here shows you that in the kingdom of heaven, when we're in rulership, all these other nations and people are going to be speaking their own language. Their own language. That's why it says language. It's not language. You understand? Christ is not going to rule like how King Nimrod ruled, to where the whole world will be speaking one language. Now, Hebrew, when we're in rulership, it's going to be the prominent language. It's like how English is a prominent language today. But yet you have other nations that still speak their own language. In the kingdom of heaven, it's going to be the same thing. Go ahead.
Come. Should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion.
Right, because when Christ rule, his kingdom is going to last forever. It's going to be in existence until the end of time. Go ahead.
Come. Which shall not pass away, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed.
Right, because this is the promise that the Most High gave to us, that we will be in rulership forever, and that we will serve the one and only true God. You understand? Who gave us the promises, which he promised towards our forefathers. All right.
Come.
So you go ahead and drop that. Let's go over to got a prophet. Go to page 70 in the Apocrypha, and we're going to read the prologue of Ecclesiasticus. All right. I want you to start off where it says, for the same things other than the Hebrew. Found it. It's brought to us here.
Okay, come. The book of Ecclesiasticus in the Apocrypha, the prologue. For the same things uttered in Hebrew, and translated into other tongues.
Into another tongue.
And translated into another tongue, have not the same force in them.
Right. So what the Bible just said is that any other language that's translated into another tongue that's not Hebrew, it doesn't have the same force and it doesn't have the same power in it. You understand? That's why every Saturday when we have Sabbath service, and even after class, we all know. I want you to hold that. Oh, you got it? All right. That's why every time when we have class and Sabbath service, we always throw up the prayers in Hebrew. You understand? Because they have a much more significance of power in it because it's a pure language according to Zephaniah 3:9. You understand? This is a language that Christ and the Most High God in heaven will prefer for us to speak in. So go ahead.
Come. Have not the same force in them, and not only these things, but the law itself.
Right. That's why we read the scriptures in the Hebrew during Sabbath service. You understand? Go ahead.
Come. And the prophets and the rest of the books have no small difference when they are spoken in their own language.
Right. And that's why we speak our own language now today in the UPK, in which we are bringing our culture back to the forefront.
Right.
You understand? Letting our people know that we don't no longer have to speak Portuguese, Spanish, or English anymore. Now we actually have an identity to where we can speak our own language again. You understand? Which is the Albarian. All right. So you go ahead and drop that out. I want you to grab for me. Let's see. I want you to grab Baruch 2 and 32. But first, before you grab that, I want you to grab this really fast. I want you to grab Luke 4:16 first. The customs that we have in the West is the same customs that Christ had during his day when he was in Rome, in the Roman Empire. You understand? As far as having Sabbath service, coming up to read the scriptures in the Hebrew, Christ did the same thing. You understand? We better here bring that on out now, because just like what the brother just read in the prologue of Ecclesiastes, as far as we're reading the law in Hebrew and having it by having a much more significant force and power in it, it's the same thing that we do in Sabbath service every Saturday in UPK that we got from Christ and that we got from the prophet and that we got from the prophets of old time, according to the scriptures. Got it?
Come.
Go ahead.
The book of Luke, chapter 4, verse 16.
Hold on, let me see if I want to start up a little bit up higher. Start up verse 14.
Come. Verse 14. And Yahushua returned in the power and the spirit into Galilee. And there went out a fame of him through all the region round about. And he taught in their synagogues.
Right. Synagogues is basically just like a place for you to better go ahead and serve the Lord. Like how we have schools. School would be like considered to be a synagogue. A place which would be a separate gathering of Israelites to where we give our homage to the Most High God, to learn the scriptures, to learn about the law and whatnot. So go ahead.
Come. Being glorified of all. Verse 16. And he came to Nazareth, where he had been brought up.
Right. So he went back to his hometown. You understand? To Shadrach, because you know, according to the scriptures, what good thing could come out of Nazareth? Nazareth was the ghetto.
Right.
You understand? So he went back home. So go ahead.
Come. And as his custom was.
No. Read what says where you have been brought up.
Come. And he came to Nazareth, where he had been brought up. And as his custom was, he went into the synagogues on the Sabbath day.
Just like the same way we go to the school, we be present in the school every Saturday for Sabbath service. Christ did the same thing. Go ahead.
Come. And stood up for to read.
And Christ went up and he read the scriptures in Lashawan Qadash, just like we do every Saturday during Sabbath service. The customs that we have in the West are ancient. You understand? And they are biblical because, of course, we are that proves biblically and in actuality that we are the lost tribes of the nation of Israel, still keeping the culture of our ancestors.
Right.
You understand? So this right here is it. All right, so go ahead and drop that out. And now you can better go to the book of Baruch 2 and 32.
The book of Baruch, chapter 2, verse 32. And they shall praise me in the land of their captivity and think upon my name. Verse 33.
Right. Because, of course, right now we are in captivity. Are we not? You understand? We're in captivity here in America, and even also as far as the other tribes as well that may not be in America, they still are being oppressed by the so-called white man. They still being oppressed by the Spanish, the Spaniards, and the Portuguese over in South America.
Right.
You understand? We have oppressors that's living, if not in the same neighborhood amongst the known tribes, or if not having a position of power over the nation. You understand? Because of course, when you look at these other nations, when we have Colombia, Brazil, the majority of these northern nations, their presidents are not even Israelites. You understand? They either conquistadors or Spaniards. You understand? They not actually so-called Puerto Ricans or Guatemalans.
Right.
You understand? They're heathens to where they putting forth laws that is governing the Lord's people to make sure that they are oppressed. Just like here in America, we thought Barack Obama was a nigger. He's actually African.
Right.
These northern tribes over in Central and South America, the majority of those presidents over there in those provinces are not actually Israelites. A lot of them are actually heathens, which a lot of people don't know. All right, so go ahead, keep reading on that.
Come. Verse 33. And return from their stiffness, and from their wicked deeds, for they shall remember the ways of their fathers.
Right, and we all remember the ways of our fathers right now, because now is the time for us to wake up,
right,
and take hold of what is so precious to us. You understand? We only got one opportunity and one chance to get it right. You understand? Because of course, how we see the world in the way in which it is now, these mass shootings, the inflation, you got the rise of pedophilia and homosexuality that's running rampant. You got war going on over in Europe that soon will make its way over to the Middle East. That's going to start the Third World War.
Right.
If you're not acknowledging these things, and if you're not even asking in your mind why is this happening, you're going to be a victim in this place, man.
Right.
You're going to find yourself being the next person shot, laying down out in the street, when you got sisters crying out loud like, "Oh my God, baby Jesus," this and that. And then they wonder why it's happening. It happened because you're an idiot.
Right.
It's happened because you chose to walk past that camp on that Saturday morning or afternoon and say, F them niggas.
Right.
You understand? I don't need no fly. I don't need to come to class. I'm good. You understand? Who the hell can judge me but God? Right. You understand? But through your pride and through your ignorance, it's the reason why black people die the way that we are. You understand? That's why the Bible says, he that turneth his ear from hearing the law, even his prayer shall be an abomination. You understand? We're praying to the wrong God. We're praying to the wrong power. That's where we're supposed to actually know, according to the scriptures, that the God of the Bible is a black man. Right. And the black people will refuse to accept a black God being in existence rather than a white. You understand? And that's the problem. That's the problem with the black community. You understand? You go ahead and drop that up. Actually going to bring this article on up here. One of the main things a lot of fake Israelite organizations always like to say, as far as the Lord's name, as far as saying Yahweh, Yehuda, this is where they get it from. As far as for this man in particular, this man here in particular, as I share the screen again, this man right here, as you see on the screen, his name is known as Elijah ben Yehuda. He's a very prominent and famous man amongst the Zionist movement. He was one that pushed the Yiddish language to the forefront amongst the world. This man right here. All right. It says Elijah ben Yehuda, and what do you think that they get the name Yehuda from these fake Israel organizations? Of course, saying that's the name of God. They got it from a so-called Asana Jew. All right. I'm going to read a little bit about it right here. It says, when Elijah ben Yehuda arrived in Palestine in 1881, Hebrew had not been the spoken language of the Jewish people since the time of the Bible. which is a lie. This article should be saying since the time of when the Northern Tribes kicked out. All right. Yet, thanks to Ben Yehuda, by 1922, enough Jewish pioneers were speaking Hebrew that the British Mandate authorities recognized as its official language of the Jews in Palestine. Ben Yehuda conceived of Jewish nationalism as both the return to the historical homeland and land of Israel. All right. Now, Israel didn't become a state until, if I'm not mistaken, 1949. If I'm not mistaken on that, but it's also the same year that the Polish people moved their way into our homeland after the Second World War. And then after that, that's when the Hebrew started becoming very prominent, very famous. All right. So let me bring on back to the article. To accomplish the latter, Ben Yehuda needed to inspire a near impossible feat to transform Hebrew, which for centuries had only been in study, into a modern spoken language, which I brought out earlier as far as for the Mozarabites and how they did that by changing the dialect of the Hebrew. All right. And let me scroll on down a little bit more. Now, a lot of fake Israelite organizations that let it call the name of the Lord Yehuda, but it's actually the name of a white Palestinian Jew. And then also as far as for yeshiva, you can see where the term yeshiva comes from in this article as well, if I can find it. If not, that's why. Okay, here we go. It says, a youth for learning. Elijah ben Yehuda was born in Lithuania, 1858. The son of a Chabad Hasid, Ben Yehuda was given a traditional religious education at a local yeshiva, the Rosh Yeshiva, or the head of a school. So yeshiva is just basically just a Jewish synagogue schools where they learn about the so-called Israelite culture. But yet you have a lot of fake Israelite organizations that like to call the name of the Lord Yeshiva. The Yeshiva is basically just a Yiddish name for a Jewish synagogue school. You know what I'm saying? Which shows you that without the knowledge of the UBK, you'd be led astray. And you'd be calling the name of the Lord after the name of your oppressor. You understand? And that shows you that we're still in captivity because history always repeats itself, and the scriptures always says that there's nothing new underneath the sun. But us, by not knowing this common knowledge, we basically just are repeating the same thing that how our oppressor gave us his name in slavery. You understand? And now, also by being underneath the knowledge of the EPK, now we know what is true and what is not. Now we know what is the proper way to speak Hebrew from the Ashkenazi Jews. Now we know the history of where Hebrew comes from how we know that it did not start with the Mozarabites. You understand? So this is the SBK Chicago Lashawan Qadash class, precinct officer 5000 and that's my time, Israel. Shalom.